Greetings, everyone. Dale Parrish, COS Indiana Live host, along with Ken Kashuba, my co-host. Ken, we're reversed again. I don't know what you're trying to take the lead role here, aren't you? That's what you're trying to do. I know.
Yeah, well, when you come into the room late, Dale, I have to put you on the right-hand side.
Is that it? Is that what caused it? Because I came in late, I had to come in and
reboot
and everything. Okay.
Your arrival did it, and you screwed it all up. So it's all your.
Okay, I know it. All right. Well, anyway, Ken will be monitoring viewer comments and questions tonight. So any of you that are viewing tonight through Facebook or YouTube, feel free to submit a comment or question, and we'll do our best to address those as we go through the evening here. So, Ken, this is broadcast number 256.
Whoa!
Yeah. And you've been on board for 119 of them. You're closing in on the 120 mark. Next week will be 120 for you. I'll tell you.
I'm feeling older too, Dale.
You are feeling older? Is that what you said?
Looking at those numbers, yeah, it makes me feel older.
I believe it. I feel the same, guy. I feel the same. Well, listen, tell us a little bit about that QR code up there.
Yeah, the one that's over your head now and over your shoulder. That's our subscription QR code. That's going to let people subscribe to our channel, which is always a good thing because there's a lot of things that are on that subscription channel that are only for subscribers. So subscribers only get some very good things that are not allowed to be seen by other people. So that we have some series and some other types of educational and information out there that we allow our subscribers to get a hold of. Plus, it's just a good way to support and let us know that you're behind us.
There you go. Well, we want to see that list grow and grow. So please, folks, subscribe to COS Indiana Live. Well, Ken, I just want to make mention of this. Rather than we're going to skip showing the debt clock tonight because I'm wanting Gary Harbaugh, who's heading up our Debt Avalanche series. Gary is going to put together an in-depth analysis of the debt clock itself. As you know, our nation hit the $35 trillion mark for our national debt. And this has been a priority of ours for some time. It's one of the major pillars of the COS resolution to address the national debt, and it just keeps growing and growing. Ken, I don't know.
It's probably a good thing you don't show that tonight, Dale. I mean, you'd be adding to the already depressing Monday stock report we're getting.
Yes.
Everything is just tumbling away, and that's stock is tumbling down, and the debt clock keeps going up. If we don't have any other types of alarms, I don't know what more people need.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, Gary's going to be doing an in-depth analysis of the clock itself. There's a world of information there, and he's going to help us understand that a little bit better. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully, we'll get our first segment of that analysis next week, but we'll see how Gary comes along on that. Well, folks, this evening we have one of our main guests is Ms. Ester Cook, and we're going to be bringing her on very, very shortly here. We also have part 2 of our Jeremy Brown interview, so you'll want to stay tuned for that. But right now, Ken, let's go to our first guest this evening, and let's bring on Ester. Hello, Ester.
Hi. Thanks for having me on.
Good to see you.
Thank you for joining us tonight. Ester's in Colorado, and you say it's hot out there too, right?
It's been pretty hot summer all over.
Yeah, yeah. Is your air conditioning working any better now? The last time I talked to you, your air conditioner wasn't working very well.
It's still the little engine that could, so it's puffing along over there. So
Well, as long as it keeps puffing, that's the main thing, I guess.
yeah.
Well, Esther, let's bring up your title here, and so everyone gets to understand. You are the Leaders Launchpad Coordinator,
Yes, sir.
LLC. COS is big on acronyms, so LLC is what I refer to you. So, tell us, Esther, what's the goal of Leaders Launchpad? Tell us about that.
Yeah, for sure. So Leaders Launchpad is our new state internship program within Convention of States. And really our goal is to train and launch the next generation of self-governing servant leaders in all 50 states across the nation. So it's a lofty goal. We're kind of on the toddler stages of the program, just growing, but really excited about this opportunity to invest in other people of my generation and help them take on the torch of liberty that so many of you have been carrying on so faithfully for a lot of years.
Okay, all right. Now, was the 2023-24 was that the first year of the program?
So great question. We actually did a short summer program in Ohio in the summer of 2023, but last year in Indiana was our full year-long program.
Okay.
So kind of the pilot for that year-long format.
Okay. And we participated in Indiana. We participated in the 2023-24 program. So what was your experience in that first full year of the program?
Yeah, well, super excited to have been able to do it in a great state of Indiana. We had a pretty small class, couple of interns who were really great, really just super flexible with most new things, new organizations, new programs. There's a lot of just adjustment that has to happen as you learn what works well, what doesn't work well. And we were able to have a great program. Super excited to have done it with those two young men, fabulous guys, and have started them on their next chapter in life. And Indiana has just been a great state to work with.
Now, I know you ran into some obstacles along the way, which I want you to mention. But explain to everyone what do the interns go through? What's the process that they go through using the 23-24 season?
Yeah, for sure. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of act, learn, adjust that goes on with almost everything in life and Convention of States as well. You do something, you reflect, you learn from it, and then hopefully you take time to adjust. One of the things that went really well this last year was our leadership development curriculum. We were really excited to be able to expand it since we were moving to the year-long format. And so we go through constitutional literacy, really laying that foundation for how our nation was founded. And a lot of people don't get that in school anymore, unfortunately.
Right.
We also dive into Western civilization and really tackle the question of what does it even mean to be a citizen of a free nation, of a constitutional republic? What does that even mean? And also training the interns in equipping them with the skills of how do we become servant leaders and really serve our communities and our nation to turn our country back to our founding principles. And so that I think is one of the really highlights of the internship. The other main component, which is really fun, is that interns get to experience really what volunteering in their grassroots team looks like. So getting a glimpse of what we do in Convention of States. We don't throw them in the deep end, give them some more structure. It can be a little bit intimidating if a lot of these people haven't done any grassroots work, aren't involved in politics. And this is really a great opportunity to dabble in, get your feet wet, and see how our government works.
Well, I call that the on-the-job training, OJT. So I know we had our interns. I know we did some block walking with got them involved in some block walking, as well as attending some information booths at county fairs and so forth. So, but now you say there's also apparently there's coursework involved. There's and who provides the coursework? Is that offered by different people, or do you do that, or who does that part?
Yeah, so I have a small but mighty awesome team with me. So I've been helping lead those calls. So we get all the interns together in the program for these discussion calls, give them a place where they can experiment, talking through ideas, thinking through these ideas critically, speaking effectively. Aubrey Freeman in Ohio has also been working with me. He worked with me last year throughout the program, and we're also inviting Emily Hamilton, who was actually an ELP intern from last year, has an awesome heart for the program. I'm so excited to be adding her to the team this year. So the three of us will be leading that leadership development component.
Okay, all right, great. And the interns that you had in this past year, what were the age ranges of the interns that were involved?
Yeah, so our interns this last year were both in high school. One was graduating senior, headed off to college now. This next year, we're actually going to be moving that age up a little bit, kind of targeting the 18 to 25 range. So it'll be like high school seniors, college students, maybe in a gap year.
I see. Okay. All right. Interesting. Well, then tell us about the 2024 program, what the 24-25 program, I should say. Is it going to be more of the same, or are you adding some more objectives? Tell us about that.
Yeah, for sure. So I think the most exciting thing about this next year is, as much as we love Indiana, hopefully we'll still have y'all as a part this next year, but we're expanding to more than one state. So that's super exciting. As I mentioned earlier, our goal for like a few years from now is to have interns in every state every year. And we're not quite to that capacity yet, but we're expanding probably to about 8 to 10 interns this year, probably about as many states. And so really excited to be able to take what we learned from Indiana this last year and be able to apply it, experiment a little bit more with what a larger scale program looks like. But a lot of it will look similar. The leadership development component, the grassroots experience will still be there.
Okay. Well, can you just picture someday when Convention of States, when we have interns in every state around the country? Wouldn't that be something?
I think that'd be super exciting. Of course, we'd have to find all kinds of accolades to give to Esther for pulling that off, for sure.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. She'd probably go on to a political office somewhere or something. I don't know.
Like that. Yeah, you never know.
But really, when you stop and think about that wouldn't that be a wonderful thing?
I think anytime we can get the youth involved to that point, I think we'd all be excited for sure.
Yeah, that really would be great. Well, tell us then, Esther. Let's talk about how if someone's interested in getting involved in this, what's the process? What's the process they go through?
For sure. One thing I'd like to mention, before you even get into the application process is you don't have to want to be a politician. I personally am not. This internship is not just to, start your political career. That's totally fine.
I was just kidding.
But I think this, really isn't, an opportunity for especially people who don't want to be in politics, figure out how to fix your government so that, you can put the right people in office and you don't have to do as much work in that arena. But it's really simple to apply. You can go to our website, which is conventionofstates.com/leaders launchpad. There's a place to apply there. I think you may have a QR code as well to share. But yeah, it's a simple application process. Shouldn't take should take under 10 hours, no, but probably just about half an hour at most to complete. And then we'll be in touch, and some applicants will get invited then to interview with us, see if they're a good fit. And then the internship will be starting September 16th. So kind of be onboarding at that process and getting things started.
All right. Ken, are you going to be able to show any of that contact information?
Yes. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. You can let me know if everything shows up.
All right.
And let's see. We're going to share. Make sure this looks the best here. We'll go ahead and share the screen. And
now, if someone's interested, though, do they have to go through the COS leadership in the state?
No, they're welcome to just apply directly. Again, there's a link on the website people can go to learn more about the internship. Always recommend reading the website before you apply. Your application tends to turn out better. But also you can apply there. You can see Ken's pulling up the flyer. If you scroll down a little bit further, there's a QR code as well you can scan.
Okay, can you see all right, Esther?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so right there, that QR code, you can scan that. Applications will be open through the end of this month, so August 31st. So again, just really encourage, if you're somewhere 18 to 25, I'm interested in making a difference, being a part of really, I think one of the most exciting movements in American history is Convention of States right now. This is a time period like no other, and we really have the opportunity to make a big difference that will last past our generation, for the generations to come. Or if you're somebody who knows somebody, if you have a child or a grandkid or a neighbor who has a nephew, who has a friend who might be interested in this, also, would welcome any members of your audience to reach out to them and send them the information so they can apply.
So they don't have to be a supporter of Convention of States. I mean, they don't have to be a registered supporter of Convention of States.
So no prior experience is required. You don't have to have been in Convention of States. I will say you should support it if you are applying and go through the interview process. If not, if you think Convention of States is, a bunch of trash, you won't make it very far. But
right.
There's no prior experience required.
Okay. All right. Good. Okay.
All right.
Got it.
Let me give you the screen back.
All right. Thanks. Well, Esther, let's, our time's about up here. Let's wrap it up here. This is all about leadership development, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really an opportunity. I mean, I know as a young person myself, I've always wanted to be a better leader in my workplace, in school, in my community, in church. And really, we invest a lot into the interns as much as, it's helpful for the states as well to, have somebody helping out with projects. But a lot of this focus is really how can we invest in the future of these young people and really equip them with the skills they need to be leaders. We need a lot of leaders in today's time. And if we don't step up and do it, who will?
Well said.
Good. Excellent. Well, Esther, thank you so much. Ken, any comments or questions from our viewers right at this point?
Other than our state leaders saying that Ester Cook is awesome to work with.
He said that, huh? He really did say that?
Yeah, I don't know how much Esther paid him, but it worked.
Well, good. That's very nice of him to say that. Very good. Well, Esther, thank you for coming on. And hey, will you come back again and keep us updated on the program and how it's going along?
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity to be on. Always a pleasure to be on with you guys, and we'll definitely keep you updated.
Thank you, and best of luck to you, Esther. Thank you.
They will.
Very nice young lady, I tell you, Ken. She's doing a great job for us.
Yep.
Those really
leaders that give you inspiration. It's nice to have people like Esther out there.
That's for sure. Well, listen, I want to let's take a little break here, and before we get into the Jeremy Brown part 2 interview, Gary Harbaugh, our Dead Avalanche series contributor, has given us a video called A Double-Edged Sword. And I thought it was very, very good what he's done on this video, talking about the debt and how it serves those involved. So let's play that. We'll come back and get going on the Jeremy Brown interview. Okay.
Yep.
Good evening. This is the next in our series on the debt avalanche. Previously, I talked about the dollar and its status as the world's reserve currency. This allows us to essentially print, borrow, and spend unlimited amounts of money. It allows the political class to buy votes. It allows the political class to support the donors who fund their campaigns. This unlimited ability to borrow money is a double-edged sword. And in that sense, I don't mean it's a double-edged sword and it cuts one way and it's good and it cuts another way and it's bad. No, I'm talking about it cuts two ways and they're both bad. And the first way is it allows the government to create this incredible overhang of debt that is unsustainable, debt that cannot really be paid back in real terms by us, nor our children, nor our grandchildren, or even our great-grandchildren. It's a debt that will ultimately be probably defaulted on through inflation or some other means. But the other thing that the debt and this spending does that cuts badly is that it allows spending on stupid things. I'm going to talk about some things that were written about by a guy named Charles Hugh Smith. He's a columnist that most of you are not familiar with him, but he has some interesting perspectives. And part of what I'm going to talk about is really drawn from some ideas that he expressed. So let's go back about 450 years ago. And there was a country that was the leading power in the world. It was Spain. And Spain was engaged in far-flung operations all over the globe through its navy. It was fighting wars in Italy and the Netherlands. It conquered Portugal. It was trying to control the Straits of Magellan. And all of this was being funded by gold coming from the New World, mainly Central and South America. Spain had so much gold pouring in that they just spent money on stupid things. And in 1588, they attempted to conquer England, and they met their match. And the Spanish Armada was badly defeated in a battle with the English Navy. And Spain went down to defeat. And here we are more than 400 years later, and Spain has never arisen again as a world power. They had this situation and they lost it. Why? Because they used that gold to do a lot of stupid spending. They engaged in wars of choice that they didn't have to engage in, but they were wars of choice just simply to expand their power and expand their influence. I want you to think about America today, wars in the Middle East, war in Afghanistan, now the war in the Ukraine. These are wars of choice, and we can engage in these wars and waste resources in these wars because we have the essentially an unlimited ability to borrow and spend money. So we're not only creating a debt that is unsustainable and unpayable, we're wasting the resources. We're creating enemies around the world of other nations who resent us, and we funded the death of probably more than 100,000 Ukrainians and probably twice that many casualties, both civilian and military, people injured in the war. And all this for what? It's to satisfy the military, industrial, intelligence, and Ivy League university complex. These are the folks that really are in control of our government. Abraham Lincoln spoke of America's government as being of the people, by the people, and for the people. I want you to think about this for a minute. Is the war in Ukraine and our sending billions of dollars there, is this something the American people, as a people, are demanding? No. It's a war of choice that we are engaging in because of the military, industrial, intelligence, and Ivy League complex that favors the expansion of power at any cost. They're gaining this power with your money, and we're creating an unsustainable debt avalanche that's going to bury us someday. And I'll talk some more about that in another occasion. Right now, I want to talk about the fact that the only way to stop this debt avalanche from growing continually is really with a convention of states that puts limits on the spending of the federal government. When there are no limits, there's no discipline, there's no accountability. And without discipline and accountability and the scarcity of dollars, then governments do stupid things. And that's what our government is doing. It's creating a debt avalanche that will someday bury us.
That one was spot on, Dale.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
Gary's right on it for sure.
I thought that was very good, Gary.
Yep.
Looking forward to his the analysis of the debt clock. I think that's going to be very good. And I think he's got some more videos of this type in the works too. So a lot to understand there. Well, we're running a couple minutes behind here, but let's move on to the part 2 of our Jeremy Brown interview. Once again, Jeremy Brown, J6 prisoner. He's in prison in Florida, Citrus County, Florida, I believe is the name of the prison. And we were able to connect with him. Once again, we're going through a prison system, communication system. And so there's might be some strange noises as we go along here. But in this part of the interview, I got to some more general questions. We started out with some personal questions, and we've moved to some more general questions. So let's go ahead and get started on that now.
All right. Good, Jeremy. Jeremy, I want to move on to some of the more general questions that we have that's been submitted to us. First of all, what did you tell me? What was your website address again?
It is jeremybrown.defense.com. And if you go there, you can find other interviews that I've done. You can find the original videos exposing the recording of the FBI that I recorded in March of 2021. You can find my appeals brief, as well as what other information has been posted up there by. I've got a great team of volunteers that behind the scenes have volunteered their time to put this website together to keep it updated and make it look as good as possible and have as much information so that when people hear the crazy story that the FBI planted evidence against a 20-year Green Beret because it was all part of the January 6th setup, that sounds crazy. But you can go to our website and you can find the information that helps you to realize that, wow, the truth is stranger than fiction.
All right. Well, I've put the address of that website on the screen here, so the viewers will be able to see that. And so that's a little detail we forgot to include. So I'm glad we got that done. So we'll leave that up there. Let's get into some general questions now. And you must understand, most of us out here have just we only know about January 6th based on what the media has presented to us or what other sources that we've been able to find. So the first question to you is, what did you see and experience on January 6th to lead you to believe that the whole thing was a setup? I've heard you call it a setup. What did you see and experience on January 6th to lead you to believe that it was, in fact, a setup?
Well, the first thing that led me to believe it is that my background in the military was 20 years in special operations, 17 years of that as an Army Green Beret. And so my final duty assignment in the United States military was as the non-commissioned officer in charge of the Special Activities Branch of Special Operations Command Central at Tampa, Florida. Now, our office was directly responsible for policy oversight, implementation, development, execution of covert, clandestine, and compartmentalized operations. And so it's not that I just watched a movie about Jason Bourne is that this is my profession. I mean, this was the very thing I spent 20 years in the military doing, either at the tactical, the operational, or the strategic level, right? So when the FBI approached me in December of 2020, before January 6th had ever been even announced, right? President Trump did not tweet, it's going to be wild until 10 days after the Joint Terrorism Task Force of the FBI attempted to recruit me to infiltrate the Gatekeepers. And so I recorded that I recorded that exchange with these two agents. And at the time, I did not know the significance of it. At the time, I thought this is just the FBI committing an illegal act of attempting to spy on American citizens without justification or cause. It wasn't until I participated in the events of January 6th as a volunteer security detail. I was not there to rally. I was not there to protest or to wave pom-poms. I was there to assist the Oath Keepers who were providing volunteer security to the attendees, to the speakers, and to VIPs associated with the event itself. So here, I'm a 20-year special operations veteran. I'm in an event having direct knowledge that the FBI had just attempted to recruit me less over a month earlier. And so all of these things were already raising, concerns in my mind, right? And so as I proceeded through the events of January 6th, I'm a little bit more alert as to what's going on. But my actual experience on January 6th was of an event that basically was very well organized and peaceful. There was extremely low counter-protester presence. We expected much more antagonistic BLM or Antifa counter-protesters there. And to be honest, the law enforcement presence was also extremely low. So as we moved from the lift escorting, we were actually escorting the mother of one of the scheduled speakers who was supposed to be speaking at a permitted rally on Capitol grounds. So we were supposed to be arriving to a stage with speakers and everything. Well, once we arrived, none of that was set up according to the permits, of which I have in my discovery. And so basically, our protectee went back to her hotel, and then we just kind of, watched like everybody else did, right? We watched this big, rally at the Capitol grounds. I was on the east side, and on the east side, there was no stage violence. On the east side, it was completely peaceful, very much a county fair, midway feel. Law enforcement was walking around. We encountered a couple of law enforcement actually engaged in conversation. And it was just meandering and people singing and chanting and praying and all kinds of stuff. It wasn't until we were called to the west side, probably around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, because there was reports of injuries that we actually saw what most of the people think everything was on January 6th, and that was the violence. And really the violence that I encountered was not violence on behalf of the protesters. It was violence on behalf of law enforcement. And so I have a lot of this body cam footage has me in it showing the overzealous nature of the riot control officers there on January 6th. And see, this is why they don't want that footage released, because when you watch the footage, it is clear that there was no big, huge, massive insurrection or anything like that. And so all of these experiences from that day are what I took back to my RV that evening. And then once I got back to my RV and I started to see the local news coverage, the national news coverage, and the statements being made by the politicians immediately, I mean, we're talking just a couple of hours afterwards, it was right then that I knew that this was the event that just 2 months prior I had warned the Oath Keepers. I said, you are about to be targeted, post-election, right? Because constitutional groups, American conservative groups, they're the target of this regime that is in charge of our federal government. So in November of 2020, I warned them of that. And so now I'm seeing this false narrative being pushed out by the media. And that is when I immediately tell them all, look, stop talking, stop everything that you're doing, be quiet, because you are about to be targeted. And that's exactly what happened. All of the oath keepers that I was with on that day were immediately arrested days and in the weeks following. And yet I was not touched at all, even though the FBI had spoken to me. They knew I had the recording of that meeting. They contacted me on the morning of January 6th. I spoke with the same agents again on the evening of January 7th. They knew who I was with. They knew what I was doing. And yet everyone that I was with was arrested except for me. I was never questioned. I was never contacted after that. And so that is when I began to actually say, this was a setup, and I'm going to actually prove it. And so in March 5th of 2021 is when I went public with the recording of those two agents recruiting me in December of 2020. And I began to speak out publicly as to what my military experience pointed to, what my own personal experience was, and the fact that the FBI had attempted to recruit me beforehand and then ignored me completely afterwards, for all indication that this was a government setup. And then, of course, since then, we've had FBI whistleblowers. We've had the release of camera footage from the Capitol, as well as private
You have
footage.
1 minute left.
We've had testimony in front of Congress. We've had books written by the Capitol Police Chief from that day. And so all of this information after the fact has now come out that it's 100% confirmed that what we were being told by the government and by Congress is a complete lie. And then the question is, well, if they're lying, what is it that they're lying to cover up?
Yeah.
And the reality is what they're lying to cover up is the government involvement in the setup of the events of January 6th in order to utilize that event to target political conservatives.
Well, then let's pick up from there. This next question, obviously, what you were saying, Jeremy, before we got cut off was you started seeing reports and so forth from the media, and that didn't match with what you saw and experienced, and you quickly concluded that this whole thing was a setup. Am I interpreting that correctly?
Well, that's correct. And not only did I have my own experience that day, but remember, I had just been approached by two agents from the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force who attempted to recruit me to infiltrate the very group that now they're blaming as trying to commit an unarmed overthrow of the federal government. I mean, it was completely absurd. And so I went back and listened to the recording now that I have proper context. And as I listened to the recording after the events of January 6th, the agents in that meeting clearly mentioned something happening in January during my recruitment. Now, again, I have no reason to believe that January is significant because this is December 9th and President Trump had not even announced the January 6th rally. And the first permits were not even requested for the January 6th rally until December 23rd of 2020. Wow. But now, in hindsight, I'm going back and listening to the recording, and I'm picking up on all of these little nuanced mentions. And look, let's be real here. The guys that attempted to recruit me were not very good at what they were doing, all right? That's the reason why they gave up so much information to somebody like me who knows what he's doing. And so it was after listening to that where it was 100% confirmed in my mind. Not only did they know that January 6th was supposed to be what it turned out to be, that they were actually well aware of it and actually involved in making sure it's happening. They're involved in the cover-up of what happened as well.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Jeremy, this is the final question. Now, this was, again, this question came from one of our Convention of States leaders. He's actually was an attorney. So this is a question I thought was a very good question. If as a Convention of States supporter, or leader in Convention of States, if we were confronted by the FBI to become an informant on Convention of States, what would you advise that person to do?
Well, first of all, I just want to say to you, as an expert in this type of warfare that is being waged against the American people, your organization is very likely already been targeted and probably had infiltrators already inside of it.
You think so? You think so, really?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Dale, we have found out, and of course, we have not been allowed to have all the confidential human source materials because that is where all the bodies are buried. In the documentation within the confidential human source mechanism is where you will find the actual truth. And this is why I've been dead set on ensuring that I get my hands on this confidential human source material because I know what's in it, right? And so we have not yet gotten all of it, but what we have been able to get is that as early as April 3rd of 2020, there were confidential human sources inside the Oath Keepers. Now, April 3rd of 2020, the Oath Keepers had not engaged in any acts for which they were even accused of committing any criminal acts, much less being officially charged. In fact, April 3rd of 2020 was before George Floyd's death. So they had not even engaged in any protective details on April 3rd of 2020. And yet the FBI had a confidential human source inside the organization.
Wow.
This, again, is another key indicator that they were being set up all along.
Yeah.
So just like the pro-life movement, just like the Catholic Church, just like I've been told by people that their religious revivals in Texas, they caught the FBI trying to infiltrate those. So as an organization that supports the actual intent of the United States Constitution, which is to limit the federal government and to protect the citizens' God-given rights, the Convention of States is definitely on the target list, right? And so this is a very pertinent question. I'm glad you asked it. And my answer is this. Never, ever in a million years should you ever talk to any federal agent from any agency, whether it's the IRS, the DEA, the post office, no matter who it is. Do not talk to them unless they have a warrant and you have an attorney present, and preferably some type of audio or visual recording device of which you should let them know that you are recording, okay? Because that is the only way. No matter how nice they act like no matter how much they say, hey, you're the greatest person in the whole wide world, and pat you on your head and tell you you're a gorilla, that is a tactic they are going to use to try to get you to say something that they can then use against you. So if you're just a normal Convention of the State, I believe in the Constitution and I want to make sure that it's followed type of person, do not under any circumstances talk to the FBI or anybody. Tell them, unless you have a warrant, I think we're done here. And they will go away. See, they know that they're not supposed to be talking to you. They're just hoping that you don't know it, okay? But if you want to be a little adventurous, like I was, right, then if you've got some background in law enforcement or the military, then I certainly encourage you to get an audio and video recorder and go along with their plan and work as a double agent on behalf of the American people. Because this is what we ultimately have to do in order to prove to people that the government is as corrupt as I'm telling you that it is. And that is provide them with as much evidence of it as possible. Even though they provide us with plenty of evidence on their own, right? I mean, how many times has the FBI said that they illegally spy on Americans' communications? How many times have they said that they involved in all types of shady things, right? We know that the FBI is corrupt, but sometimes we don't want to believe it, right? And so my recommendation is the normal person, never talk to the FBI. unless they have a warrant, you have your attorney present, and you can audio and video record it. But if you've got the skill and you've got the cojones, then by all means, conduct your own investigation into the FBI and get as much information as you can so that we can use it to hopefully, as my campaign slogan was when I ran for the House of Representatives here in the state of Florida, abolish the FBI, because it is an unconstitutional domestic terrorism organization that needs to be completely shut down. And if you want a federal law enforcement agency, it can't be the FBI. It has to be something else, must replace it, because the FBI is damaged and corrupted beyond repair.
All right, Jeremy, that's great advice. Great advice. I don't know that I would have the nerve to do that, but that's good advice. So I appreciate that. Well, Jeremy, I want to wrap things up on this time with you, and I hope we can. I want to come back again in the future and bring you on again, get an update, and I'm sure I'm going to have more questions flow into me as a result of this interview. So I'm sure we'll have some more questions for you to address in the future. Is that okay with you?
I would love the opportunity to answer. Unlike Christopher Wray, you will never get an answer from me that I can't answer your question because it's an ongoing investigation. I encourage your questions because this is the only way to get to the bottom of these types of operations. To question everything. Reagan said, trust but verify.
Right.
Jeremy says, do not trust and verify. So I would love the opportunity to come back on and answer any questions. And I just want to thank you and those that are involved in Convention of the States. You have a very important mission and organization. And I wish all the success to your Indiana chapter, and I greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak. And we have to realize that we cannot just sit by, that we all feel in our gut, we all feel in our heart, there's something not right in America. And you're absolutely right. Now we just need to have the courage to actually acknowledge the things that are actually happening. And I'm telling you, as an expert in unconventional warfare with 20 years of special forces experience, that what you are experiencing in America today, whether it is the attempted assassination attempt of a former president and leading Republican candidate for president, whether it is his unconstitutional arrest and the multiple fake cases that have been brought against, whether it is the infiltration of law-abiding dissident groups, whether it be pro-life, whether it be Christian groups, all of these are indicators that something is not right in America. And what I'm here to tell you is that thing that isn't right is that you are in the middle of a war that we have not yet acknowledged ourselves. And let me end with this. For the first time in history, a joint flight of Chinese and Russian bombers, just last night it was reported, were intercepted off the coast of Alaska. The first time ever, a joint bomber flight of Chinese and Russian aircraft intercepted by American forces. So these things are not coincidences. Chinese spy balloons flying across America is not a coincidence. Military age males moving across the southern border is not a coincidence. And millions of dollars winding up in the bank accounts of elected officials and agency heads in the federal government is not a coincidence. You are engaged in a war, and we have to wake up, or else you're going to be surprised when it's too late.
Couldn't have said it better. Thank you very much, Jeremy. Thank you very much. And we will be, you can count on this. We will be talking to you again in the future. Thank you very much for your time.
All right. Thank you, Dale.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Boy, can I.
How do you follow that up, right? How do you?
Listening to that again, that was very powerful. Very powerful. we're going to have to definitely have him on again. And I just want to mention that Wendy Olson, who is heading this series up, she's already got some good people lined up. Some J6ers. We got some election integrity expert. And the reason I say election integrity, because it's been, I've heard it said that what happened on January 6th was because of what happened November 3rd. So the election integrity plays an important role in this whole thing of January 6th. So yeah, we've got some good stuff in the works coming up. So I hope everyone's enjoyed this. I think it's been very, 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 very enlightening. And I know I'm learning a lot as I get more and more involved in these interviews. There's quite a network of people out there involved in the January 6th incident. So quite a network of people. I did not I did not mention to Jeremy that our state director is a retired FBI.
He would have given him the pass, though, knowing that our state director Dale Tipton certainly was in when we were really. I think at probably, people can argue as to how long things have been, behind the scenes tainted. I'll use the word tainted, but certainly I think Dale retired at the time when things maybe were just picking up on that side of things. But it still goes to. I think Jeremy would still turn around and say that, there are still good agents out there. It's just that
sure.
At this point, it's gotten so bad and so far beyond, as he put it, repair. I think at this point, we have to give kudos to those that did serve in a time when we had the most respected agencies in the world. So
yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap things up here this evening, Ken. Next broadcast will be August 12th, next Monday. And right now we're looking at, we'll have our state director will come on, give us an update on how we did in July. We'll have another debt avalanche installment, and be bringing Larry Hudson back on for Meet the Founders segment. So that'll be quite an evening on August 12th. Our next roundtable is scheduled for August 26th. And the topic has already been determined, and the topic is the enumerated powers of the federal government. Now, folks, this is a very interesting topic. It shows you, it ties very well into the national debt issue of how our government has gone way beyond its enumerated powers. So I think it's a very timely topic that John has chosen for the next roundtable. So also want to mention that we've got the next episode of COS Indiana Live Voices, our podcast, where we interviewed Tim Heidenreich, our prayer leader here in the state. So had a very, very interesting interview with him. I do want to mention our website one last time, Raise Your Voice COS at gmail.com, Raise Your Voice COS at gmail.com. So if you have any comments or questions after the broadcast tonight, feel free to drop us an email. So Ken, want to wrap things up with we're going to get back to our COS Basics series with John Ackerman. And John's going to show us or talk to us this evening. This will be episode 15. Boy, John's really clicking along on these, isn't he? He's, I think we got 16, 17, and 18 already in the house, I believe. Huh?
In the hopper, yeah.
So this one is he is another myth buster. What's the myth about a convention of states being an uncontrolled convention? So we'll listen to John address that, and then whoops, that's not what I want. So once we where am I here?
You got lost on your buttons there.
I'm getting lost on my buttons, aren't I?
Yeah.
Well, I can't. Well, okay, I'll do it this way then.
I don't know where you were headed.
Well, I'm trying to. Oh, there it is. Wrong one. Okay. All right, let's go to John. And once John's over, that'll be the end of our broadcast. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight. I hope you enjoyed the live stream tonight. And we look forward to, thank you for your support. We look forward to seeing you all on August 12th. So, Ken, you have a good evening. And good night, everyone.
Good night.
John Ackerman for Convention of States, Indiana. In this series on COS basics, I'm having fun busting some myths. And this myth is that an Article 5 convention be controlled. That's what they say. But the fact is that an Article 5 convention is a state-led process. State legislatures control the process from beginning to end. How do we know this? We know it, first of all, from comments made during the various states' ratification debates. Secondly, we know it from the historical record of other interstate conventions held before and after the 1787 Constitutional Convention, which was held in Philadelphia. Here's an interesting quotation from the ratification debates in Pennsylvania. Quote, "The proposed federal constitution cannot be very dangerous. While the legislatures of the different states possess the power of calling a convention, appointing the delegates, and instructing them in the articles they wish altered or abolished." Close quote. From the historical record, we know that numerous interstate conventions had been held in America before the Philadelphia Convention in 1787. The founding generation was intimately familiar with the interstate conventions and their process. In every instance, state legislatures controlled their delegates. States voted as states. Each state got one vote, and every convention stayed on topic. Remember this, an Article 5 convention doesn't even happen until 34 states agree why they're meeting. That is a 2/3 supermajority of states dedicated to keeping the convention on track and on subject. Even if we throw away the other 16 states as hostile to the agenda, that doesn't matter. That won't matter because each state gets one vote. And guess what? 16 votes does not beat 34 votes. Never has, never will. And those 16 states would have to convince 22 other states to pass any bad amendments. And those 22 other states, those 22 other state delegations would be answerable and accountable to their state legislature. So, the myth that an Article 5 convention cannot be controlled, busted.